Defaults are up, but foreclosures are down. Is the state's mediation process working? We'll hear from a man who says homeowners are being taken and the state is missing out on millions. Plus, it's been almost a decade since Nevada voters approved marijuana for medical use. So why are licensed patients forced to grow their own or break the law to attain it? And is the state missing out on much-needed revenue by not legalizing the sale for medicinal use? We'll ask our guests next on Face to Face.
This is Face to Face with John Ralston.
Welcome to Face to Face. We'll bring you newsmakers and commentary you won't find anywhere else. I'm Dana Gentry, filling in for John Ralston, who has the night off. Well, it's the growth industry of the recession. I'm talking about foreclosure mediation services. And later tonight, we'll hear from a man who says they're not working in your best interest. And he says the state is missing out on millions from banks failing to do it right. But first, federal agents, the IRS, and Metro raided 5 medical marijuana dispensaries in Las Vegas earlier this month. The raids come almost a year after a Justice Department directive to the U.S. attorneys to take medical marijuana patients and distributors off the priority list. But the message got lost here in Southern Nevada. We wanted to ask the U.S. attorney about that, but we did not get a call back. In a little while, we'll hear from the Libertarian candidate for governor who is condemning those raids. But first, we're talking with 2 attorneys about the legality of the medical marijuana dispensaries and the raids. Joining me now, Chris Rasmussen and Michael Troiano. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you.
So, the law says it's legal for people who have these licenses to smoke marijuana, but you can't buy it anywhere. There really is a catch-22. Are you surprised that 10 years after this law was enacted, we're still in this position?
I don't think I'm surprised. I think what the federal government is trying to do is send a message to these dispensaries that the state law does not make it clear whether they can dispense marijuana. Eric Holder, our Attorney General, sent out a message and said that the federal government's not going to prosecute the California dispensaries. However, he did delineate that as long as the state allowed for dispensaries, it would be okay. However, our state statutory scheme is very confusing. Us lawyers, we can't figure it out. It's difficult for the normal person to understand. However, it does make it clear you cannot sell marijuana. You cannot receive any consideration if you're an owner of one of the dispensaries. So under the technical scheme, it is illegal to sell marijuana.
Was this mistake made back when Nevada passed its law in that it did not provide for a means for people to attain marijuana?
Well, I'm sure that it does show a lack of foresight by the legislature. Obviously, the point of this legislation was to make medicine available for people that are very sick and ill, and obviously with those type of issues, people are going to have trouble getting around the house. Some people have issues just opening up a bottle to get their pill out, let alone be sophisticated enough to grow and maintain marijuana for their later use. So that's definitely an issue that was not pushed through at that time, and it's unfortunate that it's gotten to this point.
Yeah, we think of ourselves as this compassionate bunch that approved marijuana for medicinal purposes for people who are suffering, but that's not the way it is at all. I mean, you would really have to be forced to obtain it illegally or wait months, perhaps, if you have cancer, for a plant to mature. That seems ridiculous.
Well, my office represents many people charged with drug crimes here in Las Vegas and around the country. My sources inside Metropolitan Police Department here locally have told me that it's the federal government that's driving this investigation, that they've been told to kind of stay on the sidelines, let the federal government figure out how they're going to charge these people. It's going to be difficult for the federal government because the sentencing guidelines for these marijuana cases are just so low. It's going to be so expensive to prosecute them. I think right now they're just trying to send a message that Nevada needs to fix these laws and we need to change the law so it makes it more available for people to purchase it.
Does Metro have a choice whether to participate in these raids?
I think they participate and they try to work together in law enforcement. And I think what they do is they help execute the raids, but it's not them driving the investigation. Unfortunately, our legislature, it's made up of politicians, so this law that we have, Section 453 in the Nevada Revised Statutes, there's a lot of compromise you can read in there, and it's very confusing. People can only possess 1 ounce of marijuana. They've tried to open collectives where these people hold all the marijuana for the people, and it's just very confusing, and it makes it difficult for the average citizen to understand if they've broken the law or they're legally obtaining this marijuana.
The initial legislation called for the School of Medicine to, it said, aggressively pursue a federally supported distribution program. Would you, as an attorney, if you had a client get busted, would you make that part of your defense? Look, the state isn't doing what it was supposed to do according to this legislation. My client has no choice but to go out and procure his medicine any way he can.
I believe that could be used as an avenue for a defense. I mean, obviously, as a defense attorney, we need to find anything that is credible and that will hold up in court. That may not be the best issue at the time. There are other things that could evolve from that, but I'm not sure that would be my first point of emphasis. I mean, the first thing that I say to clients when they come in and they ask about how to own or possess or grow or open these co-ops is that under the federal law, it's banned. It's completely illegal. There's no black and white when it comes to that. In 2005, the U.S. Supreme Court decided in Gonzales v. Reich that under the Interstate Compact, or the Interstate Commerce Clause, excuse me, that this type of medicinal marijuana use, even if it's under the state law that's legal for health purposes, is still a violation, and the federal government has a stronghold on it. So until there's actually a change through Congress and a federal mandate that comes down, there's going to be no significant changes or defenses that we could use at the state level.
But a year ago, the Obama administration, the Justice Department, told these attorney generals to, or the U.S. attorneys, to hold off on this. Is it because Nevada's law specifically does not provide for the sale that we're in this position?
I believe that is a major part of it. Obviously, Mr. Rasmussen was speaking to that earlier, so that's something out there. But when we start playing the guessing game as to what the feds are doing and why they're doing it, it becomes an issue. So that is a logical conclusion that a lot of people have, but I also believe that some of these places were picked out particularly due to the complaints, or maybe that they were not following whatever guidelines that they believe are necessary.
We really have conflicting laws here. The city of Las Vegas just approved a license, or one of these consulting licenses, for a coffee shop called the Bluebird. It has a consumption room. If you have a license, you can go in there and consume medical marijuana. I read the law, and I remember it said that you can't do this in public. Would that be considered a public place if you are paying a fee to become a member of their club?
I think under our state statutory scheme, you would be okay if you're just there paying a membership fee and you're not paying for the marijuana. You're paying for a place to be in private to smoke the marijuana. I think that would be okay under our state law. Our state law provides for affirmative defenses for patients who have more than an ounce or are outside the bounds. If they can show that it's medically necessary for them to smoke this marijuana, they're going to be okay in our state system. The problem, like we've talked about, is the federal government's the one investigating this.
But we also have a conflicting state law as far as the driving under the influence law. Marijuana stays in your system for some time, maybe up to 30 days in some cases. Under Nevada's law, you could smoke marijuana on Saturday, go out and kill somebody on Thursday, and go to prison for it. It seems to me that it's irresponsible to license people to smoke marijuana when you could essentially be sending them to prison.
Well, that is another issue that's in the law, and I'm sure you've heard of the Jessica Williams case. John Watkins defended that case excellently. And in my firm, I work for the law office of Garrett Ogata. We handle many DUIs, and that's always a problem with clients, especially the clients that have a legal license. You can have the license to be under the influence of marijuana, but you can't drive. And what is also an issue is not only is the active THC, which renders you incapable of safely driving, which is the argument, is the marijuana metabolite, which scientists have stated is not active, and nothing has come out as far as scientific evidence is involved that states that it does influence you anyway. And under our current DUI laws, you could be charged with just having the inactive marijuana metabolite in your system.
Which is what happened with Jessica Williams.
Yes.
She's in prison for 18 years. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
When we come back, we're going to talk with the Libertarian candidate for governor. The Libertarians are all upset about these raids. Don't go away.
If you want to comment or have missed a program, just go face to Facebook with John Ralston, where you can click on links to the Las Vegas Sun, find John's columns, his blog, and links to past programs.